penalty.
Known as walls of death, for 2.5 kilometres of fine nylon mesh set to catch tuna. They're indiscriminate. Tens of thousands of whales, dolphins and sharks are killed, mostly by French, British and Irish fishermen. Until today, the British government had opposed banning them.
There's always been an argument that the number of dolphins killed was acceptable. We don't accept that as a government, and I think the scientific evidence which we have commissioned by MAF demonstrates that our concerns have been validated and we can't justify this kind of fishery anymore.
With British support, it is now inevitable that the ban will be introduced. Only the French, with the largest driftnet fishing fleet in Europe, are likely to oppose the move. Britain has fewer than 10 active boats and is now prepared to vote with the majority of European countries to protect species like dolphins. But until today, consumer boycotts of products like tuna caught in driftnets had been largely ignored. For 3 years, the British government had been among those blocking attempts to introduce a European ban.
We feel that this decision could have come earlier. We've had the proposal on the table by the Commission for 3 years now, and in that time thousands of animals have died indiscriminately in those nets.
Many of the species caught by drift nets are endangered, although for conservationists the ban will be welcome protection for all warm-blooded sea mammals like these, which they believe should be left in the ocean, not slaughtered in the hunt for ever more tuna. Richard Wilson, BBC News, Luxembourg.
Saddam Hussein has carried out his threat to act against American weapons inspectors in Iraq. 2 members of the UN team were prevented from entering the country today. It follows yesterday's ultimatum that all American inspectors were to leave the country within a week. The United Nations Security Council has warned Saddam Hussein of serious consequences if Iraq fails to cooperate.
Iraqis found their newspapers today full of ferocious anti-American rhetoric. Saddam Hussein is once again playing a dangerous game of brinkmanship with the West. He's expelling 10 American weapons inspectors who've been given 1 week in which to leave. Today, 2 of their colleagues have been stopped from coming into the country, and the United States are outraged.
It's very disturbing. It continues a pattern of Iraqi obstructionism that we've tried to point out for some time. We're going to discuss this in the Security Council, but it's very disturbing, to say the least.
The UN Security Council has unanimously condemned the expulsions as unacceptable and warned Iraq of serious consequences. But Saddam Hussein is defiant. He blames the Americans on the UN Disarmament Commission for the fact that his country is still suffering sanctions.
Iraq is in no way opting for any confrontation. All what we are doing is taking the right decision based on the procrastination that we have seen on the part of the Commission and the delays in its work. And Iraq relates all these delays to the presence of American nationals within the Commission.
But Saddam is running the risk of retaliation, perhaps another American cruise missile attack, like this one last year.
We're not ruling out any options at this stage, and the message to Iraq, and in particular to Saddam Hussein, who takes these decisions, is that the rest of the world cannot sit by idly while Iraq develops its weapons of mass destruction.
Saddam may be leading his people into yet another confrontation with the West. But he shows no sign of backing down. Ben Brown, BBC News.
More benefit cheats are being caught, but the majority of fraud still goes undetected. The Audit Commission says fraud costing £76 million was uncovered last year, most of it involving housing benefit. But it's thought that's just a fraction of the real cost. The Commission says more use should be made of computers in the fight against fraudsters.
Waltham Forest in North London. More leafy suburbia than mean streets. But council investigators Sam and Susie are tracking down benefit cheats.
Do you claim benefits? Housing benefits?
Yeah, only 2 of them.
2 of them claim housing benefit?
Yeah.
And all these people have left, and you came in a month ago, so...
They're told the man claiming benefit for this house has moved out, apparently only returning to pick up his cheques. Operations like this saved £76 million last year, money ploughed back into services. But officials say it's an uphill battle.
We are fighting to try to keep the problem at bay. The investment, we believe, is right, because the investment of £1 and the return of probably £10 or more enables us to apply those resources in essential services like social services for the elderly.
At the Audit Commission, Controller Andrew Foster says only a fraction of an estimated £900 million of housing benefit fraud is being recovered. So council investigators need to do even better.
We will never know the full level of fraud because obviously fraudsters aren't going to tell us. But the better our systems become, the more we deter. Otherwise, we are always in danger if there's a loss of vigilance here of fraudsters being able to extend their processes, and we must stop that happening.
Computers will help to win the battle. In London, cross-referencing claims increased detection rates by 50%. With total social security fraud thought to cost £3 billion a year, the message from the Audit Commission is crack down even harder on benefit cheats. Kim Catcherside, BBC News.
A 76-year-old man has appeared at Bow Street Magistrates Court in London charged with war crimes. Anthony Savoniuk is accused of murdering 5 Jewish people in Belarus in 1942 when it was occupied by the Nazis. He was allowed bail for 4 weeks. Afterwards, his solicitor said he would strenuously deny the charges.
The management of the Royal Opera House at Thrust returned to Britain today from Nevada, where it smashed the world land speed record with a run of 763 miles an hour. The project director, Richard Noble, greeted the team with champagne at Stansted Airport.
The Ariane 5 rocket has successfully blasted off from Kourou in French Guiana. It's revived Europe's hopes of retaining a leading role in launching satellites. Those ambitions seemed shattered 16 months ago when the first Ariane 5 exploded seconds after takeoff.
7, 6, 5.
All systems go for Europe's most powerful launcher.
Top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage EAP, décollage, lift-off.
It's been 10 years in development at a cost of £6 billion. At Mission Control, everyone knew just how much was riding on its success.
Pilotage normal.
Elle est partie. Superbe décollage pour l'instant, Jean-Marc.
Quel vol magnifique.
There was no commercial cargo on board, just experiments designed to monitor the rocket's performance. No one would risk a valuable satellite on this flight. But unlike its predecessor, it went off without a hitch. And as the rocket soared skyward, the future looks brighter for Europe in space.
This was vital. It was very important that they should be successful. If they hadn't been, we don't know what would have happened to the European space industry. Now that they have been successful, we can look forward to Europe retaining almost a lead in the space business into the 21st century.
A repeat of last year's disaster could have brought an end to Europe's ambitions in satellite launching. Faulty computer software caused the rocket to veer off course and explode after less than 40 seconds. But today, as Ariane's boosters successfully separated from the main rocket 50 miles up, it was clear Europe is back in the space business. Christine McGurty, BBC News.
The man who's spent the last decade greeting VIPs at 10 Downing Street is